In today's video, I'm going to answer one of the most common questions I've been getting recently, which is how many tokens do you need to stake to qualify for airdrops? Many airdrops go to stakers for networks like the Cosmos Hub, Celestia, and PYTH network. However, it's not always clear exactly how many tokens you actually have to stake yourself in order to qualify. And while first thing I want to note is every single airdrop is going to be unique and the teams set their own qualifications, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to look at 5 recent airdrops that went to stakers for some of these networks, and we'll look at what they required from stakers, and that can give us a pretty good educated guess for exactly what you would have to stake to qualify for future airdrops to stakers from these networks. Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. My name is Patrick. As a reminder, nothing in this video is financial advice. Any cryptos I mention come with risk, and you should be sure to do your own research before investing in any of them. Now let's get into the video. All right, so let's get started. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some past airdrops to various stakers, and we'll look at what they required. And one thing I'll note is that, first off, I'm focusing on airdrops that happened within the past few months because things that happened a year ago might not be relevant. The meta can change so quickly. Second off, some of these airdrops, when they did their snapshots, there weren't as many people airdrop farming. So I think requirements are probably going to be a little bit more stringent than they were, for example, when Dimension announced their airdrop. But it can still give us a good starting point. So first, let's look at Dimension. This was a recent airdrop that went to stakers for Celestia, for Cosmos Hub, for Osmosis, and then also for several other users of various ecosystems in crypto, both in Cosmos, Ethereum, and Solana. And if we look at their requirements, they actually had pretty light requirements. For the Cosmos Hub, they only required 1 token to be staked on December 19th. For Osmosis, they required 10 Osmo tokens to be staked on December 19th. And then for Celestia, they again required a single token to be staked on December 19th. And if we look at how much those are worth, back in December, one Celestia was around $12 or $13. One Atom token around December would have been worth around $11, 10 or 11. And then 10 Osmo tokens would have been worth around $13 or $14. So basically, the requirements for Dimension were truthfully quite low. However, keep in mind, people who were staking less got a smaller airdrop. So if you staked more, you would have gotten a larger airdrop, even though it didn't always scale proportionately. However, these were quite low, $10 to $15 to get your base level airdrop. I doubt that's going to happen again. I'll say that outright. It could, but I doubt that's going to happen again. Reason being that since Dimension airdrop was good, since the Jito airdrop was good, since there's been a lot more airdrops, a lot more people are staking, or they're staking their tokens across multiple wallets. And so because of that, I think probably the requirement will be a bit higher than this. But let's look at what some of the other airdrops are requiring to give us some sort of baseline. AltLayer, which did an airdrop more recently, and they airdropped specifically to Celestia stakers, their minimum requirement was 35 staked TIA, and their snapshot cutoff date was January 17th. So let's see how much 35 TIA would have cost you on January 17th. Let's see, this was around the peak actually, so around $19. Let's say 19, we'll round it up to 20. 20 by 35 is around $700 of Celestia. And I know that AltLayer did get some flack for being relatively stringent. However, that is their right. That being said, so that sort of shows us that since Dimension, since the large number of people airdrop farming now, some of these airdrops are probably going to be a little bit more stringent. And so my guess would be, based on these two, for something like Celestia, something like Cosmos, probably most of these future airdrops are going to be somewhere in the middle. And although there's been other airdrops announced, unfortunately, most of them, they don't have their requirements out yet. And so we don't have much to work with. But my guess, I would say, is that probably most of these airdrops are going to have a cutoff of at least $100, if not a couple $100. All right, next up, let's look at the PYTH network. PYTH network is an Oracle network that was originally on Solana, but supports many chains now. And there's also been a lot of airdrops announced to PYTH stakers recently. So let's look at how many tokens would have had to be staked for the PYTH network to receive these airdrops. First airdrop is this lending market on ZK Sync and Manta, known as Zero Lend. They announced an airdrop, or rather a qualification for their whitelist for PYTH stakers. And the way they're doing it is proportional. They're getting 1 point per PYTH staked. And so that's great. Basically, you just need 1.57 cents and you start getting these points. However, if you get more, you get more points. So I would say right there, that's a sign that maybe you can qualify for some airdrops on PYTH without very much staked. Next up, we have this application DGen Base. This is a perpetual trading and options trading platform on the Base network. And recently they announced a collaboration and airdrop for PYTH stakers. In fact, they're allocating 8% of their supply exclusively for PYTH network stakers. I mean, that's pretty sizable amount for PYTH stakers. Let's look at what their requirements are. You can see here that their minimum is actually 500 PYTH tokens. And if we go back and look at the price, 57 cents, that means that it's around $285 of PYTH you have to stake in order to qualify for this DGen Base airdrop. And so basically what I would say is this is a sign that, again, some of these airdrops are becoming more stringent, that they may require at least a few $100s in order for you to qualify for anything. And the final protocol in PYTH that we'll look at that's allocated an airdrop to PYTH stakers is Nabla Finance. Nabla Finance is a spot AMM with a specialization in deep liquidity for crypto and real-world assets. And if we look here on their Galaxy campaign, they announced an airdrop of 1 million Amber tokens for PYTH stakers. And note that this snapshot was already taken. In fact, basically all of these airdrops I'm talking about today, the snapshots were already taken. So we're looking at these as informative examples of what you might have to do to qualify for future airdrops. I'm not talking about qualifying for the actual airdrops in this video. But in the case of Nabla, they allocated quite a few tokens for PYTH stakers, and the cutoff was 250 PYTH. So this was half the cutoff of DGen Base. Remember, this one was 500, this one's 250, and then if we do the math, 57 cents by 250, it's coming out to around $140 of PYTH, give or take a few dollars. And so again, that is actually more reasonable than say $280 or $700 like the alt layer airdrop, but that's telling us that probably to be safe for most of these airdrops, I think it's quite likely that people are going to end up needing $100, $150, maybe even $200 or more to actually qualify for a lot of these airdrops. If you want to learn more about trending crypto topics as well as strategies for airdrops and DeFi, be sure to check out my newsletter, dynamodefi.substack.com. I send it out every week with the latest trending topics in crypto and how you can actually capitalize on those trends. And for more videos like this one, be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.